Hey, welcome to Business Breakthroughs. I'm Neal Dipentino. I'm your host today. And, I'm sitting here thinking about when I started my business. I got into the marketing business really because I really enjoyed, what I had been doing and working for other people, and thought I had a lot of value that I can bring to the marketplace and to clients. I have a lot of the same clients that today that I had 15 years ago. But the one thing that I didn't realize is that, starting a business is a little bit more than just, coming up with a great idea and executing on that idea. It involves a whole lot more. And financial advice is something that I probably could have used a lot of back then and didn't go searching for it. So today on our show, we have with us Mr. Matt Green from Ledger Medial, and you are the small business quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. And we're going to talk a little bit about, the need to have a coach, a financial coach, to help a business to, do the right thing financially to grow their business. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Well, fantastic. So, tell me a little bit about your business and a little bit about what you do.
Ledger Media Accounting Services started 3 years ago. It's basically an accounting firm like any other accounting firm, somewhat, but I take it from a stance of kind of really having empathy for the taxpayer, and I call myself the small business quarterback. It's self-proclaimed. It's no different than, I guess, the first Rocky when they asked him how he came up with the Italian stallion. He said that he came up with it while he was eating dinner. And we kind of take it that way. I went back to school later in life. I was actually 35 years old. So I think a weird advantage is that I have the ability to kind of dumb myself down to people that don't know anything. I mean, you want to start a business, you go, you see, you Google it. I mean, there's a billion things that come back. So what we do is kind of help simplify everything. Whether they've grown to 5 or 10 million, we can jump in, get a grasp on their books, give them financial information, or they've just got an idea and want to know what they need to do in terms of entity structure. We kind of help everyone, and we do work with people that just simply need to file their taxes.
Well, I like you dumb it down for people, because people like me, I need to have it dumbed down probably even more than some of the clients that you're already working with. We don't speak that language. We don't do it every single day. We know what we know, and then, we need help maybe in other areas. And I think this is a, great way that you could potentially help customers. Now, are you working in with a specific industries, specific size businesses?
We don't per se. I mean, right now I'd say we have clients that range. We do have one client that did about 17 million last year, but generally, somewhere in the 100,000 to $2 million a year range are where most of our clients fall into. But we file taxes just for normal individuals with a W-2. We're virtual. We're out of Greenville, South Carolina, so I try to convince everyone here that they need a local accountant, and everyone else in the country, they don't. We have clients all over the country.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So how does that work out for you? I mean, I think, having a virtual accountant is kind of a new thing. I mean, maybe the last, several years. I've worked with the same accountant now for, pretty much since I started my business and everything. And we're looking at maybe doing some things differently. But I mean, what is it really difficult to find new clients when they're virtual like that? When you're virtual like that?
I don't think so. It's all about networking. There's networking on a grand scale. Finding clients, there's all kinds of leads you can buy, but it seems to just happen. When I first started, I started during the pandemic, the end of 2020, and I joined a networking group, which is it's a worldwide networking group. It's an organization, but I have my own group, but everything was virtual, so I would just Zoom into meetings and then follow up, ask them if they want to have a one-to-one. So I've worked things out where currently there's a program in Los Angeles that funds, it's just an example, funds startups, and I'm the person doing the taxes for all those companies. I mean, I'm on the other side of the country.
Wow.
I don't find it hard, but I consider myself to be a pretty networking and advertising, marketing-minded person more than an accountant, I guess.
Right. So did you, when you started your business, when you started your practice, did you get help from somebody else to, get everything kind of set up virtually and to be able to find networking opportunities and to take advantage of those things?
Yes, my son actually owns a digital marketing company, so that was my only client in the beginning. And now his fiance, soon to be wife, has a graphic design company, and her sister has a social media company. So they all do that, and I do all their accounting. So that's kind of how I got started. So I
Nice.
kind of
Keep it in
have
the family, right?
yeah, pretty much.
I
Yeah.
like it. I like it. So tell me, so in dealing with business with the clients that you have, what are some of the biggest challenges that you find that your clients run into financially as they're getting started?
I would say, I guess keeping it separate. I mean, it's not really that complex. I think the complexity comes in the abundance of information that you might hear, or you go to Zen Business or LegalZoom or something like that. And if you say I need a C corporation, they'll set you up a C corporation, but they don't tell you what kind of tax return you're going to have to file or what you have to do. I would say if you don't have the money to hire like an attorney or an accountant to kind of walk you through everything, the simple answer is you set up an LLC, you get an EIN, you go open a separate bank account, and you just use it for business transactions. If you do
Okay.
that, you've got a head start on everyone. People just live out of their personal bank accounts. I have a mess I'm cleaning up now. It's literally 3 years, well, 3.5 years of them just using all their, just spending, using their personal bank and credit cards and just having to go back and try to figure all that. That's a big mess. It would have been a
Yeah,
lot
I
easier.
can imagine. Yeah. So I think a lot of small business people do that, especially sole proprietors, where you kind of get started in business, and you don't. I'm guilty of that myself, where we just like, well, we need money, we take it out of the business account, that type of thing. Not taking a regular paycheck. If you need to go out to dinner with the family, that type of thing, is use the company credit card, and pretty soon it's time to file those taxes, and you got nothing but a big mess.
Exactly. And if you got a business bank account, I mean, you don't need any fancy software. There's a lot of user friendly options, but you just take the bank statements every month and put them in an Excel spreadsheet and keep track that way. There's just keep it simple would be my biggest advice.
Right. Now you mentioned a specific client that you were working with who had gone through that whole rigmarole, kind of what I just described that I did. So, how did you advise him? What did you advise him, and what was the outcome? Did you advise him and give him like some tools that he could use, and did he abide by those tools, use those tools, and what was the outcome on that?
Yeah, they had QuickBooks Online set up and they did have business accounts somewhat that were linked, but their problem was just using every one of their personal accounts, and really there's nothing I can do other than have them go through and highlight, print all their statements and highlight the business transactions. There's no way for me to know. No
Mhm.
one. I can't know. So really, it was just that we were compiling them into spreadsheets, and we'll just enter them into tally it all up, add it to the tax returns.
Right, right. I have a client that I've been working with now for several years. It was an interesting situation. The owner of the business became ill. A lot of things started falling through the cracks, and pretty soon, he had a mess where, there was like maybe almost a whole year of invoices that hadn't been, entered into QuickBooks. Then there was taxes that hadn't been filed, just things that just kind of fell through the cracks. And he ended up having to hire another firm to go back in and just clean all that up. Have you ever run across anything, I mean, that severe?
Oh yeah, we've there's no cap to the messes we've seen. It
Yeah,
can be bad. I mean, yes. Yeah.
I can imagine, because stories you could tell over a couple beers or whatever the case might be, right?
Yeah, pretty much. But one thing people don't realize, there's a rule where you can come up with reasonable estimates. If you don't keep track of everything, there was an actor back in the day, Mickey Cohen. So if you Google it, you can find the IRS Cohen rule where you can come up with reasonable estimates if you don't have records of everything.
Right.
It's one thing you don't realize.
Okay. Well, that's all really super interesting. I've, like I said, I've had some such similar situations where, when I was a startup, made a lot of mistakes, but we've kind of cleaned all that kind of stuff up. Our business is, fairly small. We keep it really nice and lean, is on purpose and everything. And we've been thinking about incorporating. We're a sole proprietorship right now. When would you advise, or what advice would you give to somebody who is a sole proprietor who wants to incorporate, and what kind of incorporation should he file for, or they file for?
Um, well, if you're not going to take on investors or take on more than 100 shareholders, you're going to want to be an S corporation. And as far as that's concerned, you could literally ask 10 different people and get 10 different answers on that. But an S corporation eliminates self-employment taxes. As a sole proprietor, if you're curious and you look at Schedule 2, Line 4 of your personal tax return, you'll see sole proprietor self-employment tax. Me personally, I'm a little aggressive. I would say if your company is at 30,000 net and growing, it's time to convert to an S corporation. Now, there's a lot of rules about being a C corporation. Like I say, if you're going to take on more than 100 investors, maybe you got foreign investors, or there's this Section 1202 where if certain people buy a certain amount of stock in your company and hold it for 5 years, there's other rules. They can sell it without claiming a capital gain to help startups and whatever, kind of like Shark Tank. I would say is a good analogy. But generally, if you're gonna own real estate, probably a partnership. If you're not, and you're gonna have under 100 shareholders, an S corporation. Once you reach that $30,000 threshold, is when the benefits kind of outweigh the costs, because you got to file a separate tax return. You got to pay yourself a reasonable salary. So there's a good bit involved, but the simple answer would be somebody like you is probably going to want to be an S corporation.
Okay. So let's say a couple guys, they get out of college or whatever, they want to start their own business, and, they're underfunded. They're just working on a shoestring budget. And, they want to build the business a little bit and then start looking at maybe perhaps, incorporating, but for now they want to run just like a partnership of some sort. Would you advise against that even as a startup in a
So I
partnership
think,
situation?
uh, well, a multi-member LLC is going to default to a partnership, and the IRS is going to look for a separate IRS or a separate 1065 tax return. So you could do that. I mean, if you can. I mean, most attorneys, we don't do partnership. We're not attorneys. We don't do partnership agreements or stock issuance or anything like that. We do set up LLCs and do S conversions. But an attorney would probably set up an operating agreement and just start it as a partnership in the beginning. As long as you set up as an LLC partnership, it can be converted to an S corporation later. But with the partnership, the same rules apply in that a general member, meaning someone that's allowed to work in the business of a partnership, is subject to self-employment tax, just like a sole proprietor. So if they're not making a lot of money in the beginning, it's not going to hurt them, obviously, because they're not going to have net income to pay the self-employment tax on. But yeah, I would advise at least getting an attorney. Probably there's some that charge you $300 or $400 to do an operating agreement, just to have some kind of protection.
Okay, fantastic. So, if somebody is starting a new business today, and they hire you to be their accountant to, handle their day to day, their taxes, whatever the case might be, what is the best advice you could leave them with, or give, or start them out with?
Most people are going to not pay any money to talk to you, just kind of learn your situation. There's a fine line in my world of, charging people for every little thing or discovering if someone might be a good fit as a client. And also a fine line between that and maybe like running a 24/7 free tax advice hotline. So that's a constant battle in my world. But we're always happy to talk to you and to kind of tell you where to get started. And if you don't need our services now, maybe in the future you will. So I just always default to like set up an LLC, get an EIN, go to the bank, set up a business bank account. I literally went to the bank. That's exactly what I did 3 years ago. Took $100 to the bank. I've still got the same bank account. I've paid $0 to have that, and it just simplifies everything. That would be my first advice. And get insurance.
Get
Those things.
insurance. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Very
Yeah.
good. That's all. I think it's all great information. It's great advice and everything. I think, again, I wish I would have had somebody giving me that advice. Of course, a lot of us when we're getting started in business, we could be a little bit pig-headed. I, I say that, but I also, in marketing, I'm my area of expertise is in marketing. I find that some of the people I've been dealing with the longest can be very pig-headed because they're used to doing things a certain way and then trying to convince them to do something differently. It could be difficult. Is that you find that to be the same in your industry?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to let go of the reins, so to speak, and you want to do things your own way. Most people think in terms of cash. Like if I have more cash at the end of the month, then I'm profitable. Or if I don't have any cash, it means I'm not going to owe taxes. So those two things are not the case most of the time.
Right.
So once they're ready to say, hey, and we give them that, and you have ongoing. That's one thing we help people avoid is how profitable are you really? You may have cash, but have you run out credit cards? Do you take on a loan? You purchase a vehicle for the business. Is that loan now on the books? But loan payments don't decrease your net income. So if you're paying $2,000 a month in loan payments, and you think, well, that means I only made $5,000 this year. Well, you probably made like 30. If you're sole proprietor, you're gonna pay self-employment tax. So there's a lot of factors in that. I would say the challenge is just letting someone do it, and it's not normally not going to break the bank because it's going to save you time. I mean, if you're worth $300 an hour and it's going to take you 5 hours to do the books, and somebody's going to do your books for $350 a month, it's simple mathematics, and I mean, probably not even just an opportunity cost. It's probably just actual cash. It's going to save you.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I actually had a podcast not too long ago with another person who was a business coach, and we were kind of talking about the same thing. I mean, the DIY, syndrome, I guess you would call it. People think they can do everything on their own. I know that's the way I still think that way a lot, sometimes. But you stop and think about how much money you could potentially be making at your business doing what you do well, if you're doing that as opposed to doing something that is a drain on the business in a sense, not bringing capital into the business. So I really like what you said there.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what
Fantastic.
we start to do. So, they're not set up, the marketer's not set up to do accounting or someone that works on cars. They don't want to be accountants, I'm not going to try to work on my car, and I don't
I'm,
do my marketing. So there you
I'm
go.
I'm with you 100%. So, Matt, tell me, how would our guest find you if they wanted to get in contact with you to talk about accounting with you?
Just Google Ledger Medial Accounting Services. We're everywhere. Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. We've got ledgermedial.com. It's not that hard. I guess nothing specific. You'll find us. We'll pop up.
We'll find you. Just ask the guy in the corner. He knows you, right?
Yeah, he might. I was on cops. I was on cops once, so
Uh-oh, look out. There we
I'm
go.
just
Well, listen, Matt Green from Ledger Medial, we sure do appreciate you being on our podcast today. And that is it for our podcast. So we're so thrilled that you all could be with us. Business Breakthroughs is produced by Ryan Shear. And we want to say thank you to Wendy, our assistant, and our sponsors, Titan Digital. Until next time, have a great day. Thanks.